Good day, class. For today's topic, we're going to talk about the four pillars of learning. And by the way, I am Francesca Luis Alias, your teacher for today. Before we proceed to our discussion, I have prepared one question. So, my question is, what is the purpose of learning, or why do we need to learn? So basically, learning in life is to gain knowledge, to expand on what you already know, and learning helps you grow as an individual. And take note, class, that learning is part of growing. So here, as you can see in the slide, we have here the four pillars of learning. Learning to know, learning to do, learning to live together, and learning to be. Before we continue discussing each pillars, let's talk about first, or let's just have a brief discussion about its meaning and purpose. So as you can see in the slide, four pillars of learning, it is centered on the reflection of meaning of learning throughout life. So learning process is said to be continuous, an endless and progressive way of addressing the holistic needs of a person. So class, why do we need to study these pillars of learning? So it is important for us to know the reason why do we need to study this. So for us to be able to use this knowledge and skills to develop ourselves into a person that cares not only for our own but also for the sake of other people as well as to the community which we belong. It was produced in the 1996 report to the UNESCO presented by the Commission of Education presided by Jacques Delors. The purpose of these four pillars are the following: to promote the formation of the human person in all his or her dimension, all stage of his or her development, and to make each adult an active builder of the future and of the future of the commitments which he or she belongs. So from that given information in the slide, we can say that its main purpose is to ensure the continuous growth of a person. At the societal and global level, it educates the individuals which they can develop social responsibility necessary in building a better place to live. The first pillar would be learning to know. So this is the acquisition and development of structured knowledge and skills. So these pillars goes beyond learning facts. This emphasizes how a person learns, mastering one's ability to gain knowledge. It implies of knowing your surroundings. Example of these are the formal acquisition of literacy, numeracy, and critical thinking. And based on what I have said earlier, we must realize that learning is a lifelong process. So here, people have to learn to understand the world around them by combining a sufficiently broad general knowledge with opportunity to work in depth on a small number of subjects. This also means learning to learn or autonomous learning so as to benefit from the opportunities education provides throughout life. As a result of learning, the person is transformed. They are more enlightened, more empowered, and more enriched. So from that given information, learning to know, it leads to an understanding of the world around him, opens to the knowledge of one's own and other, which keeps them from ignorance. So it helps them improve their learning skills as well as to broaden their knowledge. According to Delors Commission Learning, it implies developing one's concentration, memory skills, and thinking. So, concentration and memory skills are one of the important skills that we need to develop since These are the basic types of learning, which gives us the basis or foundation of knowing that learning is an ongoing process. Next is thinking. Thinking is one of the difficult objectives since it involves one's capability of knowledge, intelligence, and developing skills. I want you to remember that learning to know is not simply acquiring the knowledge. It is a process of continuously learning to develop your instruments to learn. Now we already know what is learning to know, so let's now proceed to the next pillar, which is learning to do. So it involves the acquisition of skills that would enable individuals to effectively participate in the global economy and society. These skills are often linked to occupational success, such as vocational and technical skills, apprenticeships, and leaderships and management competencies. So basically, from that given definition of learning to do, we can easily analyze that it acquires or describe putting knowledge and learnings into practice innovatively. So it is mentioned that is often linked to occupational success such as vocational and technical skills. So here it talks about developing your talents to be competitive in specific areas which are you good at. So it's just adapting or applying all the knowledge and learnings you have into practice. Here in the next slide are the skills that you need to know in developing this pillar learning to do. So the first one is clearly defined task. So it is important for you that you understand or you know what is being assigned or what is the given task assigned for you in order to do it well and to avoid any misconception. Next is routinal practice transmission. So if we're going to talk about job here, it is more likely like you don't need to be told because you already know what are you going to do. That is why it is also important that you practice doing your routines. Next is ascendancy of knowledge and information. So you here you'll be gaining knowledge and information. It may be coming from you or from other people. It will also help you broaden your wisdom on certain aspects which lead you to the development of personal competence. Along the way, you will be aware of what is happening around you or the people that surrounds you. And this is where your development of social behavior comes in. After that is the aptitude for teamwork, where you will be capable of working in teams. So here, you will be enhancing your ability to deal with other people. Next is risk taking, initiative, and readiness. Here, it is important that you are always prepared or basically ready on some unexpected situation that is going to happen. You need to have a presence of mind, initiative, and always ready to take some risks if needed. So, lastly, is the excellent interpersonal skill. So, if you already mastered all the skills that I've mentioned, this skill will comes in where you are already improve or enhancing your social skills, how you handle, communicate, mingle, and deal with other people that surrounds you is not a problem anymore because you have the enough knowledge on how to deal and to work out with it. Before we end our discussion about learning to do, here are the keywords for you to remember. So, shifting from skill to practical know how competence. So, just what like I've said earlier, applying what you have learned into practice. Ability to transform knowledge into innovation, developing your competence in social behavior, aptitude of teamwork, initiative and readiness to take risks, acquiring your skills more behavioral than intellectual, learning that is no longer limited to work but responds to participation in development, and lastly, communicating, working with workers, and managing and resolving conflicts, which is work related.
Good day everyone, I am Miss Jasmine Gabunada, or you can call me Miss or Jas, your teacher for this day, together with Miss Francesca. So, I will be continuing our discussion about the four pillars of learning. As you know, there are only two remaining pillars, which are learning to be and learning to live together. But before that, let me ask this question. Are you in your real self already? Are you trying to accept for who you really are, or are you trying to fulfill someone else's expectations about you? Or do you fully know yourself? Mm, you might be wondering if why I am asking this question. It is simply because my discussion or topic for today relates with ourselves on how we bring the best version of us. Do you have any idea as to what is learning to be really about? So this type of learning was first conceptualized in the report to UNESCO in 1972. Learning to be involves activities that promote holistic personal development, the body, mind, and spirit. It is for an all-around complete person. The all-around development of the whole person to fulfill his or her highest potential and be able to think, decide, and act independently. The source of creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. All people should receive in their childhood and youth an education or training that equips them or us to develop our own independence, critical way of thinking and judgment so that at the end of the day, we can make up our own minds on the best courses of action that we should do in the different circumstances in our lives. Especially, our life is an everyday battle. We are tested in different ways. An example under this pillar is a teacher who participates in training workshops that will enhance his or her knowledge and skills in the learning process. Learning to be may therefore be interpreted in one way as a learning to be human. Through acquisition of knowledge, skills, and values conducive to personality development in its intellectual, moral, cultural, and physical dimensions. Developing the mind and body, intelligence, sensitivity, aesthetic sense, personal responsibility, and spiritual values. Kumbaga, ito ay ang pagpapalago ng ating sarili para tayo ay maging isang magaling na individual at maging kompetent sa lahat ng bagay. There's a saying goes that before we can make someone's lives worth living, we should apply first in ourselves. We can sincerely appreciate others if we can't do it in ourselves. Ni minsan ay hindi natin dapat isipin na tayo ay nagpapalago sa ating sarili o nag-i-improve ay para sa ibang tao kundi ito ay para lamang sa ating sariling kapakanan. We also need to include our imagination and creativity upon developing, since it also needs to be nurtured and nourished, as it will play its own purpose in our lives. With our imaginations and creativity, we can turn something dull into a lively one, a plain one to a colorful one. It serves as beautifying the things in our lives that has lost its purpose. With our imagination and creativity also, we will be able to earn out from it. Being complete in oneself in all the richness of one's personality. Just like what I have said earlier, ang pagpapalago ng ating sarili sa lahat ng aspeto, walang perpekto na tao, alam natin yan. Pero may mga hakbang at paraan para tayo ay maging kompetent sa lahat ng bagay. Sa talino, responsibilidad, at spiritual beliefs. Giving all the things in ourselves that we need. It's not the material things that I am referring to, but those things that matters to us the most, just like self-respect, self-appreciation, self-love, and there are so much more. Developing one's full potentials and tapping the hidden treasure within oneself. We have so much more to show within ourselves, so we just need to take it out from its own comfort zone and use, develop, and train it. Since no one has its own potential in the beginning that is perfectly polished, everyone started at the bottom where doubts, shyness, and negative thoughts overflows, rather than the positive one. I almost heard everyone said, "Waman ko'y talent, bugo man ko." And yes, I am one of those people who self-pity. I can't dance, I can't sing, I can't draw, and I can't act like others do. They have so much to offer, yet I have none. But then I just realized that I also know how to do it. Yet my doubt is bigger than the things I could. If only I have improved it and disregard others' negative criticism about me, then I would be able to dance and sing gracefully. One thing I learned is never listen as to what they say, it will just make you less happy. Everyone has its own room for improvement, and if you think you got some potentials, then do it. Grab all the chance. Do not waste any opportunity. All of us got something unique that we can share to the world. And those keywords in learning to be will serve as a guide in identifying if what is learning to be really about. Learning to live together. It implies an education taking two complementary paths. On one level, discovery of others, and on another, experience of shared purposes throughout life. The Lord's Commission places a special emphasis on this pillar of learning in the context of increasing globalization. Learning to live together implies the development of such qualities as knowledge and understanding of self and others, appreciation of the diversity of the human race, and an awareness of the similarities between and the interdependence of all humans, empathy and cooperative social behavior in caring and sharing, respect of other people and their cultures and value systems, capability of encountering others and resolving conflicts through dialogue, and competency in working towards common objectives. In learning to live together, parents, teachers, and even students are encouraged to teach students about human diversity. Instill in them an awareness of the similarities and interdependence of all people. Children should be taught to understand other people's reaction by looking at things from their point of view. Just like a saying goes, no man is an island. We need someone beside us. Yet, we also need to know that they have different perspective, beliefs, and principles. Learning to live together teaches us how to respect their idea if it is different from ours. We do things that it is okay with us, but it is not okay for them. We'll got to discover their own culture, and if we find something that is weird for us or it is not appropriate in our culture, then we should respect it. We shouldn't do something that will disrespect them. Spirit of empathy is encouraging in schools. It has a positive effect on young person's social behavior for the rest of their life. You need to put your shoe in their shoes first before making a judgment. It is important to note that we should be fair, especially if young ones is around, since when we do something that will upset them, they won't forget it. Instead, they will be carrying it for the rest of their lives. Young ones cannot control their emotions like adult ones. Therefore, we should think for how many times before doing something or before giving comments. Put always in our mind that we need to give respect to be respected, not just to those people who is older than us, but everyone around us. School as our second home should also promote social awareness, acceptance, and respect. It is because children spend more time in school rather than at their own homes. Therefore, they should be taught right. Teachers should treat everyone fairly. It may be poor or rich, beautiful or not, intelligent or dumb, joyful or loner type. Teachers should be aware of the things that they do and what will come out on their mouth. Listening with both sides is the best thing to do to have a harmonious surrounding, getting along with one another on whatever races you belong. So does anyone know what is the difference between learning to be and learning to live together? Uh, okay. So the difference between the two is that learning to be is about self-awareness, goals, and self-direction, while learning to live together reflects tolerance for diversity and connecting with and understanding others. Please allow me to add some short information since I have mentioned earlier about the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or the UNESCO. It is an organization that contributes to the building of a culture of peace, the eradication of poverty, sustainable development, and intercultural dialogue through education, the sciences, culture, communication, and information. So, thank you for listening to our discussion for today. But before that, allow me to share this one to you. Education is at the heart of both personal and community development. Its mission is to enable each of us, without exception, to develop all our talents to the full and to realize our creative potential, including responsibility for our own lives and achievement of personal aims. This is according to Jacques Delors. It is important to note that the four pillars of learning relate to all phases and areas of education. They support and interpenetrate one another and should therefore be applied as basic principles, cross-cutting themes, and generic competencies for integration in and across subject areas or learning domains.